Welcome back to the channel. I'm Colin and this is a review of the ZiiGaat Arcanis IEMs. It's a set of hybrid IEMs that retails for $399. The Arcanis is the top of the range ZiiGaat product at the time of this video. It features 2 dynamic drivers and 5 nodes BA drivers under a 4-way crossover. I'll list the specs on the screen now if you want to take a look. As the driver configuration suggests, this is a super technical set of IEMs. Although they are easy to drive, I do think they will scale well with a good source in terms of overall separation and resolution. Now let's talk about the unboxing experience and I'll tell you how it sounds. The unboxing is fairly straightforward for all ZiiGaat IEMs, no matter the price. You get a fairly simple box. Inside we have the Arcanis, a zippered pouch, the cables, a set of 3 silicone tips, and a pair of foam tips. Really not much to talk about and quite underwhelming for a $400 set. But anyways, let's get to the IEMs themselves. Now onto the build of the Arcanis. The Arcanis has a 3D printed black resin shell and a green faceplate. The faceplate of the IEMs are hand decorated, so they might look slightly different in between pairs. The 2-pin connection is a normal flat 2-pin connection. The nozzles are metal and I believe they are the same ones used in the Lush. Cables for ZiiGaat IEMs are nothing to rave about. They're all the same. A fairly normal braided black cable. This one's terminated with a mini jack. The Arcanis, like the ZiiGaat Arete and Lush, fits in my ear like a glove. It has a semi-custom shaped shell. The Arcanis is slightly thicker than the Lush and Arete, but the inner part where it touches your ear is exactly the same. So if you like the fit of other ZiiGaat IEMs, you should like the fit of the Arcanis too. So here's how the measurement of the Arcanis looks. Overall it looks like a meta-ish tuning with a more pronounced upper mid-range boost. There's a 7 decibel bass shelf that transitions into the mid-range quite early at around 150 Hz. Similar to other ZiiGaat IEMs, the mid-range is tuned to be relatively flat. The treble shelf of the Arcanis comes in quite early at around 800 Hz, and it's raised slightly more than the bass shelf. So looking at the graph, you can see that the Arcanis will be a slightly bright IEM. After having the Arcanis for a couple of weeks, I find the Arcanis to be one of the most resolving IEMs in my collection. What impresses me most was how it was able to scale when you pair it with higher quality sources. It was able to reproduce tiny details in instruments. From the moment a string is plucked, till when the string eventually stops ringing, it feels like you can clearly hear exactly when the attack and decay of the notes are. It can present great detail and scale to whatever you pair with it. Now regarding the timbre of the Arcanis, I find it to be very neutral and slightly towards the bright side. I think it's tuned towards being a monitor and studio IEM as opposed to a fun IEM for music listening. But that doesn't mean it's not good for music listening. It's all about preferences. I would describe the bass of the Arcanis to be quick, composed, and tamed. There is a sub-bass boost on the Arcanis. The sub-bass is really well textured and really quick. It has good punch but doesn't give you the bass that rumbles since it's so fast. The mid-bass on the other hand is punchy and composed. The attack of the mid-bass is relatively fast and you get great texture and resolution from it. The timbre of the lower mid-range of the Arcanis is very neutral throughout the entire lower mid-range. This is kind of the house tuning of ZiiGaat IEMs. Females and male vocals all sound neutral as it should. I would say there is a slight forwardness in voices for the Arcanis. As you would expect, the mid-range of the Arcanis is again super resolving. It's able to present a lot of imperfections or character in a singer's voice, due to its peak in the upper mid-range around the 1K region. It can also present the depth and the air around instruments and vocals in the mid-range. That said, the soundstage depth is also really well done as well. I'll talk more about the soundstage later. The upper mid-range is where it gets a bit hot in the Arcanis. In instruments like snares, electric guitar solos, and sometimes the breathing sounds or sibilance from vocals. The peak in the 1K region is what makes these instruments sound slightly forward and boosts the perceived clarity of these frequencies. This will also help you pick up micro details in recordings, but if you are treble sensitive, you might find that there's too much upper mid-range energy in the Arcanis. The treble of the Arcanis is energetic but controlled. It gives you a great sense of precision and resolution. To me, the treble doesn't sound excessively bright that it sounds fatiguing. I think it's tuned just right for a more revealing IEM like the Arcanis. The treble resolution shapes the overall soundstage presentation and the precision of the overall sound very well, making the Arcanis sound analytical and resolving but not fatiguing. The soundstage and imaging of the Arcanis is definitely one of its strong points. The width of the soundstage naturally spreads left and right, not super wide, but doesn't sound exaggerated either. Some IEMs sound super wide, but the music sounds like a wall of sound. But that definitely isn't the case for the Arcanis. Although not super wide, but the depth of the instruments are precisely mapped throughout the width of the stage. The depth of the stage of the Arcanis sounds really deep, and you can definitely hear whether instruments are placed further back or more up front. The depth of the stage really stands out if you listen to live recorded jazz music. You get a good sense of where everything is placed and where the audience are. The imaging is very precise and accurate throughout the width and the depth of the soundstage. You can really pinpoint instruments with these. Combined with the realistic depth and the width of the stage, the experience is quite holographic in a well-recorded track. I compared the ZiiGaat Lush to the Arcanis despite the price difference between the two because I think the Arcanis would be a direct upgrade for Lush users. The tuning of these two IEMs are very similar, as they were released around the same time. Comparing the two, it does sound like the Arcanis has a bit more forwardness in vocals. It's also brighter sounding than the Lush. However, when you compare the technicalities of the two IEMs, it's where you'll hear the performance of the Arcanis make up for the price difference. Technically, I think the Arcanis is better than the Lush in almost every way. The detail and resolution, imaging capabilities, soundstage depth is all better on the Arcanis. But that said, I do think the Lush is a slightly more laid-back and non-fatiguing IEM. I then compared the Arcanis with a cheaper Arete model, which I previously reviewed. These two sound quite different despite having a similar tuning. I feel like if you're a bass head or listen to a lot of hip-hop and rap, the Arete will be more fun to listen to, because the bass of the Arete has more of a rumble and slam to it. On the other hand, the Arcanis is more about precision and texture. However, the mid-range and treble clarity is where the Arete lags behind. There just isn't the same resolution between the two IEMs, and the vocals on the Arete sound slightly recessed when compared. The spatial projection is also much better on the Arcanis. The Arcanis is overall a much more technical IEM, but the Arete gives you some excitement and fun for certain genres. For the cons of the Arcanis, I've summarized 3 points. 2 of these points aren't really cons, but more related to one's preference and taste. First, the accessories are just quite terrible for a $399 IEM. I've talked about this in the Lush and Arete review, but with the Arcanis being the top of the line IEM, the accessories and packaging is exactly the same. So if you're planning to get the Arcanis, don't expect it to come with anything exceptional in the accessories part. It's about what you would get with $100 IEMs. Second, I sometimes wish the Arcanis to have a little more mid-bass rumble and punch. This is dependent on the genre you're listening to, but in some tracks, especially older classic rock stuff, I sometimes want a bit more mid-bass impact from the Arcanis. Third, the upper mid-range energy might be too much for some people. While personally I don't find it a problem, it can be an issue for some. I think a slight EQ adjustment will fix it in case you find the Arcanis bright, or even some tip rolling may fix it if it's an issue for you. In summary, I think the Arcanis is an outstanding hybrid IEM. It just impresses in so many categories. The imaging, the resolution, and the speed and texture is all done very nicely. It's definitely one of the most resolving IEMs I've tried in a while. So if you're someone looking for an IEM that gives you resolution, precision, and great imaging around this price, I would definitely recommend you get the Arcanis, or at least give them a try if you have a chance. I think they will surprise you. So this is the end of the review. Please let me know if you have any questions about the Arcanis, If you enjoyed watching this review, please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thank you for watching.